Let me tell you a story about New York. In those days, it was known as Café Society. Show business celebrities and royalties from Europe would frequent the grand ballrooms of New York hotels. The grand hotels like the Waldorf Astoria, the Ritz-Carlton, the Plaza, and the St. Regis were the places to go. Let's begin with the Plaza Hotel. It was the hub of activity for dancing in those days. Mr. and Mrs. Murray would host their showcases at the Plaza Hotel, and I have a lot of personal pictures of those occasions. At the Plaza Hotel, I danced with my students and also I danced with my professional dance partners. It was in the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel that we performed our famous can-can number. I performed many dance routines at the Plaza Hotel. After our performances in the main ballroom, we would go for dinner and dancing in the Persian room. During my time in New York, I remember the old Art Deco Persian room. The room was filled with beautiful Persian murals depicting warriors on horseback. The Persian room was renovated many times, and in the 1950s it was the most popular spot for dinner and dancing. Performing in the Persian room was of special meaning to me because of my Persian ancestry. The Persian room was unique in its own sense. There was no other place like it. It was the greatest place for dinner and dancing and having fun. In order to get a good table, the head waiter would have to have a good tip, anywhere from $20 to $50, which is a lot of money in those days, and in fact it's a lot of money today. It is in the Persian room that we would eat dinner with the regulars such as Bennett Cerf, the famous publisher, Kitty Carlisle, the great singer, and Dorothy Kilgallen, the journalist. The Oak Room at the Plaza Hotel was for gentlemen only, so Mr. Murray and Mrs. Cerf very often would go there for man-to-man discussions. Yours truly tried to go there wearing palazzo pants. They wouldn't let me in because that's a man's outfit, and a lady should wear a dress. I remember when Mr. and Mrs. Murray were on the TV show What's My Line, and Mr. Bennett Cerf was one of the panelists. For those of you who don't know, the What's My Line has a mystery guest, and Mr. and Mrs. Murray were the mystery guests. The panelists all wear masks so they can see the guests. They have to recognize the guest by their voice. So Mr. and Mrs. Murray would disguise their voices when they answered the questions. But I have a funny feeling that Bennett Cerf knew who they were by the sound of their voice.
I must say this, that when I came to the theater tonight, this was as much a surprise for me as it was for you, because I knew that an old friend and a wonderful man named Bob Hope was going to take over your weekly show for 2 weeks, and I thought they'd be off on a long vacation. They got here tonight and found out that they weren't leaving until tomorrow, so they joined us.
Well, I thought they'd be in the Oak Room at the Plaza. They always are.
No, the show we're going to have is a sort of a roast to Bob Hope, and there'll be 14 stars of his friends to roast him. And John, you've been nice to call attention to our show, which is on Tuesday, and I'd like to ask you a question. Do you mind if I take off my mask?
No, sir.
Okay.
Another fancy hotel was the Waldorf Astoria. It is there that we went for dinner and dancing at the Starlight Room. The Starlight Ballroom had a small dance floor, but to make up for it, it had the most beautiful Art Deco ceiling. At that time, Frank Sinatra was choosing the members of his cast for his television show, and when they were not performing, he invited them to party at the Starlight Room at the Waldorf Astoria. Mr. and Mrs. Murray would also hold competitions in the grand ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria. I have many pictures showing us competing in the grand ballroom. After dancing, it was customary for teachers to pose for pictures with their students. If it's music and bands you're after, Glenn Miller and his boys were playing at the Hotel Pennsylvania. There's a beautiful restaurant there called the Café Rouge. Meanwhile, Benny Goodman would play for the dancers at the Hotel New Yorker. At the Hotel New Yorker, there was a retractable ice skating rink by the bandstand. On that floor, the dancers would perform. This was considered one of the most amazing acts in New York. Benny Goodman would play the music and the skaters would dance to it. For the larger dance competitions, the entire Arthur Murray staff was assembled at the Roosevelt Hotel. It was at the Roosevelt Hotel that we danced to the music of Guy Lombardo, and the winning couple would take home a bottle of champagne. Now let's talk about the nightclub scene. The most popular place to go was the Stork Club. The dining room in the Stork Club was long and narrow, and to diminish from its length and its narrowness, they did paint it in royal colors of gold and green. On any given night, the club room was packed with celebrities like Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, and Dorothy Kilgallen, who appeared in every nightclub that was popular in New York. Call it a coincidence if you like, but Dorothy Kilgallen and I, or yours truly, would be seen at the same nightclubs at the same time. Mr. Billingsley was the manager of the Stork Club, and he would arrange for the press to snap pictures of the celebrities that attended his nightclub. My sister and I were no orphan Annies. We were both often at the Stork Club for dinner and dancing. Having your picture taken at the Stork Club was your rite of social passage. Before we finish, I want to tell you the story of two diamonds. One diamond was lost and the other was found. A regular at the Stork Club was Miss Evelyn Walsh McLean. She was the owner of the Hope Diamond. One night, as she was twirling during her dance, she lost her diamond. It went under her table, and a waiter found it for her, and she was very, very happy. And now about the diamond that was found. One night at the Stork Club, Prince Rainier of Monaco proposed to Grace Kelly of Philadelphia, and she accepted. The press went wild. It was all over the papers and all over the radio. Now let's talk about the biggest and best place in New York to go dancing. Roseland was considered the biggest and best nightclub of New York. The high ceilings of the ballroom were draped with colorful fabrics and crystal chandeliers. Talking about comforts of home, the Roseland Ballroom hosted two lounges downstairs, one for the ladies and one for the gentlemen. The most popular dance of Roseland was the Peabody. Peabody had a lot of flair, a lot of speed. It was a wonderful dance. The men would change their jackets during dancing and put it on the lady, and lady would do the same for the gentleman. It was an amazing competition. It took a lot of character and stamina to dance the Peabody. The next wonderful nightclub in New York was the Palladium. The Palladium starred band leaders like Tito Puente and Tito Rodriguez, and it was really great. Dances got invented and reinvented in the Palladium, i.e., the cha-cha came from mambo being played slower. It was called triple mambo. It was really good. There were a couple of dancers that were fabulous. Augie and Margot, handsome Latin boy and a beautiful wife. They were aces in doing the sitting hand. That's when the lady goes down on one leg and holds the other one in the air, and he spins her with his hand. And it's amazing. They were aces. She would go all the way down, all the way up, and continue spinning without losing the balance. The Palladium was managed by Killer Joe Pirro, a well-known dancer who loved to perform, and he often invited his very close friends, Augie and Margot, who were great dancers. Mr. and Mrs. Murray would invite dancers from the Palladium to showcase the new dance, the mambo, on their television show, the Arthur Murray Dance Party. If swing is the dance that you are looking after, you would be sent to the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. Famous dancers from the Savoy included Frankie Manning and Norma Miller. Mrs. Murray also invited dancers from the Savoy to appear on the Arthur Murray show to dance the Lindy Hop. If you were looking for a more formal place to go dancing, there was the Rainbow Room. The Rainbow Room was high up in Rockefeller Center. The floor in the Rainbow Room was round and rotated slowly so the dancers could have a very good view of Manhattan. The Rainbow Room was the perfect place to be dressed up, eat dinner, and have a wonderful time. If you wanted your body to let go and have a good time and dance and move to music, that would be the other side of the coin. I'm talking now about the naughty nightclubs. That means the Copacabana and the Latin Quarter. The Copacabana had a Latin-themed orchestra and a Brazilian decor. Many people associated the Copacabana with Carmen Miranda and Xavier Cugat. It was well known for its chorus line of Cabana girls who, as a decor, wore those coochie-coo hats. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were a very popular duo at the Copacabana. At that time, the baseball players from the New York Yankees were dancing with us on the Arthur Murray show. Billy Martin was dancing with Teenie Wilson. Whitey Ford was dancing with Tad Tadlock, and Norm Seaborn was dancing with yours truly. Following the rehearsals, they went to the Copacabana to celebrate Billy Martin's birthday. Sammy Davis Jr. was the headliner that night, and he was wonderful. That night, the Yankees were at the Copacabana just to have a wonderful time celebrating Billy Martin's birthday. At that point, the door opens and a group of bowlers walk in and they start heckling Sammy Davis Jr. And that didn't sit well with the Yankees. So a fist fight started. The punches were flying left and right. The police was called, and they came, and at the same time, a man walked in by the name of Leonard Lyons, who was a Broadway columnist. He said, "I will show you the way out so the police can be avoided." And he did. Everyone snuck out of the back door of the Copacabana to avoid the police and the press, and one man was carried out on a stretcher. In exchange for helping the Yankees out of a jam, Mr. Lyons got the scoop, the whole story that made news headlines all over the world. Competing with the Copacabana There was a nightclub called the Latin Quarter, and in order to beat the Copacabana, the owner hired stars like the Andrews Sisters, Ella Fitzgerald, and himself, Baby Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra. General dancing filled in the gaps between the acts, and it was a lot of fun to participate in and to watch. By being exposed to all these places, I got an education that money couldn't buy. It was a glamorous life. It was a phenomenally fun-filled life. It's a memory that it will never be forgotten. I will always remember it with a big smile.